I gave him my loyalty, my love, and every chance to be better. But he used each one to dig my grave because he never wanted a partner, just a puppet. That's the truth. The whole truth. And for the longest time, I couldn't even say it out loud without choking on my own shame. I believed in him. More than I've ever believed in anyone. And that belief. It cost me everything. His name was Arav. I met him when I was at the top of my game. I was a senior creative strategist at one of the fastest growing agencies in Mumbai. I had just led a campaign that went viral, was being considered for a global position, and I felt like nothing could stop me. And then I met him. Arav was a freelance designer, raw, talented, and visibly haunted by something he never talked about. His work wasn't polished, but it had soul. I noticed him before I even met him. A colleague had forwarded his Behance link to me for a campaign I was leading, and something about his style made me pause. I reached out. He showed up for our first meeting 20 minutes late, breathless, and holding a tattered sketchbook like it was a lifeline. I should have walked away right then. But I didn't. He had a kind of charm that didn't sparkle, it smoldered. Quiet, intense, wounded. The kind of man who made you want to save him. And God help me, I tried. I brought him onto the campaign despite my manager's hesitation. I said he just needed a break, that all he lacked was structure. I vouched for him when he missed his first deadline. I smoothed things over when he snapped at a client. And when HR flagged his conduct after he shouted at a junior intern, I took the blame for not setting expectations. I was blind. But it didn't feel that way at first. Because in the beginning, he made me feel like I was the only person in the world who understood him. Late night calls, long messages, half confessions about his past that always ended with "you're different, Naina." He told me his ex had left him when he hit rock bottom, that people only stuck around when it was convenient. So I stayed. And when we crossed the line from colleagues to lovers, I did so fully. No hesitation. I let him in, to my apartment, my circle, my dreams. He moved in 6 months later. It was supposed to be temporary while he got back on his feet. He never left. But little things started changing, slowly. So slowly that I gaslighted myself for noticing. He began questioning how I dressed, commenting on my colleagues, especially male ones, criticizing my work even though he hadn't opened a design app in weeks, and always twisting things back to himself. If I was tired from back-to-back meetings, I wasn't making time for him. If I disagreed with him on anything, I was controlling. If I succeeded, it was because he had freed my creativity. But if I failed, it was because I didn't listen to him. I was slowly becoming a shadow in my own life. And I didn't even see it happening. The agency promoted me to associate creative director. It was a huge step, and my dream for years. The night I told him, I expected celebration. What I got instead was silence. And then, wow, I guess you finally made it without needing anyone. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. That was the first time I felt it. That cold flicker of something I couldn't name then. Jealousy, resentment, bitterness. I ignored it. I thought, he's just going through something. He'll come around. Instead, he started undermining me in subtle, terrifying ways. He'd log into my work laptop and fix design drafts without telling me, making changes that caused me to miss key feedback. He'd forward sensitive internal emails to himself to help, but never delete them. He once accidentally sent a highly confidential pitch deck to the wrong client. Each time, he was sorry. Each time, I covered for him. Why? Because I loved him. Because I believed in him. Because I thought love meant standing by someone when they're struggling. But I was wrong. He wasn't struggling. He was strategizing. It all came crashing down the day I was called into HR. I thought it was about a campaign I'd led. Instead, they handed me a folder. Inside were screenshots, emails, chat logs, all supposedly written by me. They showed proof that I'd leaked confidential project data to a rival firm and suggested Arav had seen me doing it, that I forged timelines, manipulated billing hours, Violated NDAs. I laughed. I actually laughed. I thought it was some twisted joke. But it wasn't. He had manufactured an entire narrative, piece by piece. Forged chats, faked access logs, even mimicked my writing style. And he did it all. Using the same laptop I let him borrow every night. I was suspended pending investigation. My access was revoked. My team stopped replying to messages. And just like that, I was out. The man I loved, the man I defended, promoted, fed, clothed, sheltered. He had stabbed me right in the spine. I went home that night to confront him. I walked into our apartment ready to scream, cry, break something, but it was empty. He was gone. So were his things. Even the backup hard drive I kept for pitch decks. All that was left was a note taped to the fridge. Sometimes the only way to grow is to burn everything behind you. You'll thank me one day. I collapsed to the floor and screamed until my throat gave out. Because that was the moment I realized. He never wanted a partner. He wanted a puppet. Someone to dance when he pulled the strings. Someone to lift him without ever flying on her own. Someone to control. But what he didn't realize was that even puppets, once cut free, can learn to stand. I didn't leave that floor for hours. I don't even remember how long I lay there. But something in me snapped that night, not in a way that broke me. In a way that finally woke me up. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry over him anymore. I was going to get my life back. And I was going to burn his down in the process. The first thing I did was get out of the apartment. Every corner of it smelled like him, like betrayal dressed in familiarity. I moved in with a friend, Alina, who didn't ask questions when I showed up at 2 a.m. looking like I crawled out of hell. She just held me and said, "Whatever it is, we'll fix it." I hadn't told anyone what Arav had done yet. I was still gathering the strength to say it out loud. But I started documenting everything. Every password he had access to. Every timeline from the campaign. Every chat we'd had. I filed a request with the agency's IT department to investigate login records from my account. At first, they were cold protocol. But once they started digging, things shifted. The logs didn't match. Access patterns showed my credentials being used from 2 devices, even when mine was locked. Slowly, HR realized something was off. Very off. That's when I started speaking. I told them about Arav, about the shared devices, the accidental mistakes, the controlling behavior, and the night he disappeared. It wasn't enough to clear me, not yet, but it made them pause the investigation and reopen the case with digital forensics. Still, my reputation was in shreds. Industry chatter moves fast, and people talk. Naina's done. She leaked a pitch to PRX. She was sleeping with a freelancer. What did you expect? The worst part? Arav had planted the rumor that I had been emotionally manipulative, that he had tried to leave and I had retaliated professionally. He painted himself as a victim. And people, especially people who didn't know me, believed it. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was drowning in anger and silence. But in that silence, I found clarity. He wanted to erase me. So I decided to become unforgettable. I started consulting, quietly, under a new brand name. Alina helped me build a website. She was a front-end dev, and within a month, I had 3 clients from Singapore and Dubai. Small brands, but passionate. I poured everything I had into their campaigns. Not for the money, for the proof that I was still good. But revenge, real revenge, needed more than that. It needed precision. It needed leverage. And I knew where to find it. One night, while digging through an old Dropbox folder, I stumbled upon something Arav had once forgotten to log out of, a backup email tied to an old freelance platform. Curiosity won. I tried resetting the password. And it worked. What I found was a goldmine. Multiple fake portfolios. Projects he copied and sold under different aliases. Payments routed through third-party wallets. He was still doing it. And worse, he was now consulting with PRX Creative, the same agency he accused me of leaking information to. Of course, he hadn't accused me because I'd done it. He'd done it, and he needed me out of the way. That was it. That was my proof. But I didn't just want to expose him. I wanted to end him. So I crafted a plan. Slowly, carefully, like building a trap in plain sight. Using one of my new clients, I floated a fake project brief on a private network he was known to browse. Sure enough, he applied, using one of his pseudonyms, Race Event. Same exact design style. Same ego-soaked cover letter. I hired him under a dummy name. Had him sign a fake NDA. Fed him false information about a secret product launch with tech specs that mirrored a confidential product being developed by PRX's rival Electra. And just as I predicted, he sold the entire deck to a third-party contact. A contact I had already warned and set up. He fell right into it. He plagiarized again. He committed fraud again. And this time, I had every screenshot, timestamp, wallet transaction, and audio recording to prove it. I compiled a dossier and sent it, not to the agencies, but to every woman he had ever worked with. Every woman who had messaged me anonymously over the past few months. Women he had gaslit, scammed, silenced. It spread like wildfire. LinkedIn posts, WhatsApp groups, Discord channels, screenshots, testimonials, warnings. Design Twitter was in flames for 48 hours straight. Arif's name became synonymous with fraud. PRX dropped him publicly. One of his fake portfolios was reported and deleted. And his real identity, along with all his fake ones, was blacklisted across multiple networks. But it wasn't over. Because Karma still had one card left to play. PRX, the agency that had benefited from my takedown, was now under scrutiny because of Arif's leaked materials. Electra filed a formal complaint. The firm's leadership scrambled. And one of the partners, who had once called me emotional and difficult to work with, reached out. They offered me a contract, a massive one, to clean up their brand damage, to rebuild the campaign Arav had ruined. I didn't just take the job. I took the seat across from their CEO and said, "You tried to bury me with his lies. Now you'll pay me to fix your truth." And they did. Handsomely. Winning should have felt sweeter. It should have felt like justice had been served, like everything he did to me had finally been undone. But the truth? It felt hollow. Because I had lost more than a career. More than my reputation. I had lost myself. For months, I had been fighting, surviving, moving like a machine fueled by rage and strategy. Now, for the first time since it all began, there was silence. No more calls. No more legal threats. No more anonymous whispers. Just silence. I moved into a new place. Alone. Smaller. Warmer. No shared workspace, no digital ghosts. I redesigned it with color and softness, things Arav used to call childish. I let myself enjoy the quiet. And in that quiet, I started remembering who I was before him. I had dreams. I had passion. I had a spine. And now that I had destroyed the man who tried to take all of that from me, I was finally free to build again. Or so I thought. One afternoon, while preparing pitch materials for a wellness startup, I got a notification. An alert from an old email I hadn't checked in months. One I used only for subscription trials and forgotten accounts. It was a single line. Arav Sharma has attempted to log into your LinkedIn profile from an unrecognized device. My blood ran cold. It had been nearly 4 months since I destroyed him publicly. He had vanished from the internet. Everyone assumed he went underground. Some even said he left the country. But this meant he was watching. I checked the IP. It was routed through a VPN, but the time matched exactly to a failed login attempt into one of my cloud storage accounts. He was trying to find something. Something I still had. And suddenly, I knew. The real reason he set me up. It wasn't just sabotage. It was the campaign. The pitch deck I'd been working on before he disappeared. The one that never launched because of my suspension. It was an AI-powered behavioral design platform for education, something he knew had serious global potential. He didn't just want to ruin me. He wanted to steal my legacy. And I had made one fatal mistake. I had stored the prototype in a private folder, on the same laptop he had once used. Even after everything, I had forgotten to change one key setting: remote access permissions. He hadn't taken it before because he wasn't ready. But now he was coming back for it. I felt the panic rise again, that helplessness I thought I had buried. But this time, it didn't consume me. This time, I didn't freeze. I acted. I encrypted every single file in the system, locked it behind a timed authentication code that reset every 24 hours. And then, I set a trap. I created a duplicate prototype, one that looked exactly like the original but had a fatal design flaw buried deep in the code. One that would crash any server it was uploaded to. I named it Final Project Master and Re4, and I left it just visible enough in a decoy folder labeled Archive and Rebrand. Then I waited. 3 days later, it happened. The login pinged at 2:47 a.m. He had found it. And like the arrogant parasite he was, he didn't even check the code. He downloaded it, rebranded it slightly, and pitched it at a virtual innovation summit in Berlin, under a new name, of course: Raise. What he didn't know was that the summit had invited me as a silent consultant on judging day. They hadn't announced it. My name wasn't public, but I was on the back end of that Zoom call, watching it all unfold. There he was, in a rented co-working space, clean-shaven, well-dressed, calling himself Ray Singhal, founder of Raise Technologies. He used phrases I had written, diagrams I had designed, concepts I had developed in notebooks during late-night breakdowns while he slept beside me. And then it happened. The demo froze. The server crashed. The moderator's screen glitched. He stared at the camera, blinking, fumbling. And one of the panelists, an old professor of mine from Singapore, leaned into the mic and said, "This appears to be a corrupted build. We've received word this prototype may have been lifted from a previously reported case of a IP theft." Arav, or Ray, tried to defend himself, but the moderator cut him off. The call was ended, and within hours, a digital forensics report was launched by the summit committee. His new name, was blacklisted. Again. That was the final nail. Not just the death of his career, but of his reinvention. Because now, wherever he went, whatever name he used, the internet would follow him with one word: thief. And me? I released the real version of the prototype 2 weeks later, with full transparency, with credits to every woman who'd helped me rebuild, with a clear message: you can't kill what you didn't create. The day I launched the real prototype felt like an exhale I'd been holding for years. No press conference, no grand announcement, just a quiet post on a Thursday morning. This was built through pain, but it's here to serve peace. Within an hour, my inbox exploded. Clients, former collaborators, journalists, even strangers who had followed the scandal whispered through the design world months earlier. Some were just curious. Some were supportive. And some were ashamed. I saw names I hadn't heard in years. People who had unfollowed, blocked, or ghosted me when Arif's version of the story became more convenient than the truth. They sent me messages that started with words like, "I didn't know. I should have asked you first. I'm sorry for staying silent." I didn't reply to most of them. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. Because I'd learned something over the past year: silence speaks volumes. Sometimes it's not what people say when you're in pain. It's who says nothing at all. Those were the people I'd buried alongside my former life. But something else happened that week. Something bigger than validation. The platform I'd built, the real prototype, the one Arav tried to steal, it worked. It actually worked. Educators signed up. Students responded. The behavior-guided UI helped kids with ADHD stay focused 37% longer than traditional methods. It was being noticed. I was being noticed. Not as The woman Arov destroyed, not as the one from that scandal, but as the creator, the original. I got invited to a conference in Barcelona to speak on creative resilience. I did a TEDx talk in Bangalore. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just surviving, I was leading. But the biggest moment didn't happen on a stage. It happened on a park bench. I had taken my dog, Rumi, my little rescue, for a walk near the waterfront. She was tugging at the leash, determined to chase pigeons twice her size. I was laughing. And that's when I saw her. A young woman, maybe 22, maybe 23, sitting on a bench nearby, tears streaking her face, staring at her phone like it had just ruined her whole world. I don't know what made me walk over. Maybe it was the look in her eyes, that helpless, hollow panic I remembered too well. I asked, gently, "Are you okay?" She looked up, startled, then hesitated. And then she said, "My mentor, he stole my design. He's launching it under his name next week." I trusted him. I don't know what to do. I sat down beside her. I didn't say, "You'll get through this." I didn't say, "Let it go." I just said, "You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you're not alone." And then I told her a part of my story. Not all of it. Just enough to show her she wasn't the first, and wouldn't be the last, to rise. That conversation stayed with me for weeks. Because I realized something. Revenge wasn't the real ending. The real ending was this: helping someone else survive what tried to destroy me, turning the wreckage into a roadmap. But life, as always, had one last twist in store. It came in the form of an email, one I almost deleted out of habit. No subject. No sender name. Just a line in the body. "He's in Bangalore, working at a co-working hub under the name Karen Dev." My stomach turned. It had been nearly 6 months since Arav's failed demo in Berlin. Since he tried to steal my life's work and was humiliated in front of international investors. He had gone dark. Deleted accounts. Disappeared. But now, here he was. Or at least, a version of him. Using yet another fake name. Starting yet another fake identity. Trying, yet again, to crawl back into a world that had already spat him out. I clicked the email open, half expecting it to be a trap. But there was no phishing link. No attachment. Just a Google Maps pin. And when I followed it, it took me to a sleek co-working space just 15 minutes from where I now lived. I sat there for hours, staring at the screen. All the old rage bubbled back up. I could feel it, in my teeth, in my fists, in the back of my throat. He was still doing it. Still existing. Still moving forward like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't tried to erase me. Like he hadn't used me, broken me, and walked away. For a moment, I thought about showing up. About standing in that office and watching his face go pale. About letting him know I still had eyes everywhere. But then I remembered something from therapy. Sometimes the strongest choice isn't confrontation. It's choosing not to follow them into the darkness they built. So I closed the laptop. I didn't go. I didn't report him. I didn't post about it. Because I realized he wasn't winning. He was running. He wasn't building anything new. He was recycling stolen ideas and borrowed names, terrified every day that someone, somewhere would pull the curtain back. That's not a future. That's a sentence. And me? I was finally living. I had moved into a sunlit apartment with bookshelves and plants and laughter. I had a team of 3 now, young creatives who looked at me with the kind of respect I once begged for from people who didn't deserve it. I was building something honest. Something beautiful. And most of all, I was free. Not because I'd ruined Arav, but because I had survived him. Outgrown him. Buried the need to be right, and replaced it with the need to be whole. So let him keep running. Let him change names and fake resumes and pitch stolen dreams to strangers. That's not a man building a future. That's a ghost searching for a mirror. And I'm done reflecting him. I gave him my loyalty, my love, and every chance to be better. But he used each one to dig my grave because he never wanted a partner, just a puppet. Now, I don't beg, I don't break, and I sure as hell don't dance for anyone else's strings. He built a world of lies and got buried under its weight. I built one of truth, and it's still standing. He's running. I'm rising. He's hiding. I'm healing. And in the end, the puppet cut the strings and walked off stage, while the puppeteer crumbled behind the curtain.